It is a joy to be back in Iowa, and I want to say my heartfelt thanks to Point of Grace Church for hosting this terrific event today. And I asked them how long I was given to speak, and they told me as long as I'm finished by Sunday service tomorrow, it'll be fine. Actually, I'm starting when I was supposed to be finishing, so you need to listen very fast tonight. For one reason, I want you to get home and catch my show on Fox News Channel. I need your ratings. It's job security, so please. I also want to say I appreciated so much what Marla said in expressing thanks to the Republican Party of Iowa. And I want you to know I've traveled all over the country and I've been to Republican Party events, literally from Hawaii to the state of Maine, from Florida to California, and everywhere in between. This is the first time I am personally aware that a state party has ever held an event specifically to emphasize and to celebrate our commitment to the dignity, the worth, and the intrinsic value of every single human being. And I want to say thanks to the Republican Party of Iowa for taking the stand. It's been mentioned, but it's an important concern that we must address. There are some in our national party who would really like for us just to be quiet. They'd love for us to sit in the back of the bus. They'd love for us to give up our seats to those who have more affluence and wealth and who will write bigger checks. They would love for us to be quiet, except they'd appreciate it if we'd show up at rallies and scream and stomp our feet and wait for hours for the privilege of doing that when the candidates that they pick for us come and speak. And there are those who really appreciate us making phone calls and walking neighborhoods and passing out literature, but they don't really want to be seen in public with us too much because we're just a bit of embarrassment. Because when we talk about our commitment to the sanctity of every human life, it is not a political position. It is not merely a piece of the platform. It is a conviction in understanding that life is not a gift from the government, that life is a gift from God, and we will stand before Him and answer for whether or not we personally were involved in elevating the value of every human being. And as Martin Luther so eloquently said as he posted the 95 Theses on the door at Wittenberg, I hope that all of us, and across this country, Republicans like us, will say, here I stand, I can do no other, and we will stand on the issue of life. And if that is a problem for those who consider themselves the leaders of the party, please let us know now, because we'll find someplace else to be. But we will not recant or relent on the attitude that every life has value, because every life is a gift from God. And it is our responsibility to do all that we can from the moment of conception until God closes the door on that life to award it the dignity that every life deserves. So when someone says, well, we're going to help pick the candidates because we want to make sure that we pick the ones that are most electable, I'm telling you now that within the Republican Party, and I believe within the United States of America, the most electable candidates are the ones who can articulate that there is no such thing as a person who does not deserve the dignity of his or her life. I believe that one of the realities that we need to express to some of those who would like for us to disappear is that the tide has turned in this country as it relates to the life issue. 2 years ago, for the first time in America since Roe v. Wade, for the first time, both the Gallup and the Pew polls showed that more Americans self-identify as pro-life than as not being pro-life. And you know what's really significant about those polls? If you looked into the details of the poll, what you found was that the reason that the tide has turned and more Americans now identify themselves as pro-life is because younger women are more pro-life than their mothers and their grandmothers were. Ladies and gentlemen, this is good news on the life front. And by the way, to all the liberals who tell us constantly we just need to accept science, that science is so important and we need to just validate the facts of science, I say bravo! That'll get us to being a pro-life nation even faster, because the biology of life is irrefutable. There is no dispute. There may be a theological dispute about when life begins. There may be a philosophical dispute about when life begins. There is not a scientific biological dispute, because we know that when 23 chromosomes from a man and 23 from a woman come together and create, at the moment of conception, that unique DNA schedule, it has never existed before. That particular DNA schedule will never exist like that quite again. It is not merely an appendage of the mother, for if it were, it would have a mirror image of the DNA of the mother. It does not. In fact, sometimes it doesn't even share the same blood type as the mother. The baby that starts living at the moment of conception is a unique life. And it happened at the moment of conception. And all of the cellular reality and mapping that ever will be in that person's life happened at that moment of conception. That is irrefutable in terms of the science. So I say to the liberals, I say to those who want to celebrate abortion instead of celebrate life, join us in the science of reality, and join us in the affirmation that there is no such thing as a life that is disposable and expendable, that all life has value, and that's why we shall seek to protect it. And I'm grateful that the Republican Party of Iowa has taken a stand, and I salute this party and its leaders for having the courage, and let's just be blunt, having the courage to take a stand that may or may not be popular at all levels of our party. And I'm willing to let people believe whatever they want to believe, but please don't push me out the door because of it, or if you do, there's going to be a lot of folks going with us. And I want to see, is it going to be possible for Republicans ever to win an election without those of us who are committed to something more than just what's in our pockets? Some of us believe that if we take care of our business in honoring human life, God will bless us economically, but God cannot, will not, and should not bless us economically if we destroy more than 1 million babies every single year who could have had a life. I just got back this past Tuesday from Israel, and it was one of about 20-something trips I have made there. My first one was 40 years ago this summer. I got to thinking about that, and I thought, you know, the children of Israel only were in the wilderness 40 years. I've been going in and out of there all that time, and poor Moses never got to go. By the way, I was very young when I was there. I was all of 17, not quite 18, a month away from my 18th birthday. And something wonderful happened in that first visit, and it's why I've continued to go back. One of my joys now is to take people who've never been, and to take them to see the places that they know by heart because they've read about it, they've heard messages, they've taught about it, and to take them to those places and to watch the emotion in their face as they realize they are at home in a place they've never been, which is kind of a unique experience. But in addition to all the biblical places, there's some other places that I always take the people who go with me. And one of them is in a little cemetery just across the street from Mount Zion in Jerusalem. Most people never visit this place. I happened to find it several years ago on a trip, and it intrigued me. And since that time, I've made sure that those who go with me go stand in that little cemetery to see one particular grave. There are several thousand graves in the cemetery, but there's one that I want them to see.